Dog.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Coffee and Semmler. As always, we're here, discussing Counter-Strike this morning, but all topics are on the table. Joining me, though, will be two wonderful guests, pros and veterans of the scene in Counter-Strike, Goosebreeder and Vilga. And years of experience in the scene, have gone toe-to-toe with the best, and really, we're just going to be here to discuss a little bit about this GG4All initiative put forward by ESL, and gaming in general, women in gaming in general, and really all other topics under the sun. There's nothing really there's nothing really off limits. So good morning, Goosebreeder. How's it going over in? Wait, you're Canadian, but you live in the United States now, right?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm pretty Americanized at this point with how long I've been here. But yeah,
Okay.
I'm living in Texas at the moment.
In
So it's like
Texas.
2 a.m.
Well, you chose a good
Yeah.
spot. Fantastic.
Yeah, good routing, good connection.
Center of the United
Good
States. Don't have
evening.
to deal with the ping.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Flying around is a little bit easier.
How's it going, Vilga? How are you doing?
I'm alright. Could you choose like a bit later time for a meeting?
Well, that's right, because you're in Moscow, aren't you? So you're an hour earlier than an hour earlier
No,
than
I'm
me.
actually 2 hours
You're
later.
2 hours.
But I normally yeah, but it's still
Come on
early,
now, Vilga.
man.
2 hours later.
Nah.
You
When
think
you
Goosebreeder's
play
up till
faces
5
till
a.m.?
3 a.m., you can't wake up early.
Yeah, I feel you on that.
I feel you, yeah. Sorry about that. It's a 9 a.m. stream. We were trying to find the balance, right? Yeah, because we got the North
True.
American continent, we got our continent over here, and then obviously keep going east. Yeah, it gets a bit spicy. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you very much then for waking up this early, especially after hitting headshots last night at 3 a.m. That's no easy feat.
No worries.
All right.
It
No
is
worries.
easy actually.
Well, at
Just
least
kidding.
I guess, like, to kick us off, right? There was a bit of a brouhaha that happened when ESL announced their GG4All initiative. They have that league that came up where they are putting forth quite a big sum of money into the female scene, 500,000 spread out over the year in a series league tournament format, which sounds really cool, really exciting, and that's a large chunk of money. So also really great for the female scene, because over the past couple of years, it's kind of quieted down. There haven't been that many tournaments, as I understand it. There hasn't been that much money. And so, that's a big initiative coming in from ESL. My rub that really got me off on the whole thing, in terms of like where we were talking on social media, Twitter blew up, started a fiasco, and Thorne and I got lambasted for a couple of weeks there, was that I disagree with the messaging. I feel like the messaging put forth by ESL in this is that they claim that men are toxic, and that's the reason why that women can't compete in the scene, and that it's all men's fault, and that men are toxic. And that the other one is that I think that isolating ourselves into different groups for the sake of competition is eventually going to put ceilings in on those groups, and you will not, if the stated goal is to have everybody compete together and have the highest level of competition and everybody peaking together and competing together, isolating off in separate groups is not going to help get us to that goal. It will, it could help to grow that group. So in this case, it would be women gaming. Like if we have a women gaming initiative going on where there's females competing and it's getting out of hand and it's awesome, well, then that could grow and that could be great. If that's the goal, fantastic. But if the stated goal is to have women competing with the men at the very peak of CS competition, then I think that that goal will not be met going down this path. So those are kind of my two positions on this whole thing, just to kick us off, and I guess what I can ask really is just like, what did you think about this whole initiative here from ESL, as coming from the pro perspective? And I suppose we can start with
I can
Goose, or no,
go
with
if you
Villa.
want.
Yeah,
Sure.
go on, Goose.
Okay.
All right, Goose.
Yeah, so I guess like I'm gonna probably hold off on the messaging just now. I'm gonna focus more on like the second point, because that's like a point I've given more thought over like a long period of time.
Absolutely.
I do think that there is like there is truth to like that point for sure. I think that like the answer to getting women, so the answer we are looking for is like women with men competing at the highest level, right? Like that's
Right.
like the ultimate goal for everyone. I bet Vilga, like I'm not gonna speak for you, but knowing you from the outside, I feel like that's also like something you would like at the end of the day if you could play at that level. Personally, that's like
Yeah.
what I want. My goal has always been to like play at the highest. I've tried to do that while also competing within a female team. Just doing like the most I can within a female team and using resources and stuff. But I guess like how I see it is it's more of like a stepping stone where I think it's like a necessary step that needs to be taken to get to the point where maybe we can find a solution once we've like gathered more women. So I do
Mhm.
think that at some point there's going to need to be a solution to bridge like the crossover. I actually have given it a little bit of thought. Um, so I was thinking, right, like we need like women's tournaments, in my opinion, because I mean, we saw it firsthand. Without them, the scene was pretty much dead. And when you look at Valorant, it's blooming. There's orgs interested. Women are like flocking to it. It's very common to see like women in games actually, where like in Counter Strike, it's like every. I don't even remember like in the past before ESL got announced. Like the last time I like queued into a game with a girl, really, that like wasn't someone I queued with.
Right.
So I think just like sheer numbers is really important for just like the obvious reasons of like having people to choose from. If you have like a bigger pool, you have a higher chance of having more talented women. I think you understand like you've already stated that like with women tournaments, like if the goal is to grow, then yeah, we can do that. So I think that it's a very important stepping stone. And I think that if the goal, which personally I think that this should be a goal for women, to eventually try to get to the highest level, um, then I think if that's the goal, maybe instead of like trying to choose one or the other, I know because you're talking about messaging, right?
Mhm.
But I'm just thinking about solutions specifically. If the goal is to bridge the two together, um, then I think that you can have both. I think maybe we can put like some focus on how do we like bridge that gap when we get there. That's like what I think like we could be brainstorming more about. So I just like had an idea we could grow off of it. It might not be the best at first, but something that I thought of recently was I noticed like EU has like an academy league, right? Like they have academy players, academy league, all that stuff, if I'm not mistaken.
EU, what we play with Mouse Sports
Uh,
and Fnatic and Nip and all
yeah, they have
those.
like
Yeah.
Navi. That's
Yeah,
like an
Navi
academy league,
youngsters.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's we play. Yeah, they're
Okay,
doing
I
a
didn't
really
know it
good
was
job.
called
It's on their
WePlay.
they're on their third season now, I think.
Yeah, I've actually like watched some of it. I was like, oh, cool. Like I didn't even know like this existed. So I'm honestly like new to learning about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I thought that that was really awesome for the EU scene. I thought that would even be nice for like more scenes in NA, even for the like, just like the mixed scene. I think growing that like potential in those players is really good,
Yeah.
important. So I was thinking like honestly like that could be a good way to actually also branch women into competing at higher levels. So, for an example, right, my team has competed at advanced levels, so it's not pro. It's close to premier.
Mm-hmm.
You could theoretically find like like a woman, like a player from an all females team, and like recruit them and like scout them and like bring them to your team, and they go play like an academy league or something, and then maybe they get experience from that academy league, and then maybe they go pro one day, who knows? But I was thinking like that it's just an idea. It doesn't have to be the answer. But I was thinking like, I mean, by the time we even get enough women to get to that point, hopefully we've thought of more solutions. Um, but I think that that is actually not a bad idea. Also because I think we have to look at like the realistic side of things. Like we have to solve the issue of sheer numbers, right? If there's no women, how are we going to find enough women who are even good enough to compete? It might be possible, but the likeliness is lower. And then, yeah, I think like we have to solve that, and then and then you're gonna get to the point where there's a problem, right? Like you're saying, like if you confine women in women only leagues, they might just they're gonna just like stay there. They're not gonna like want to leave, right? And I think like part of that is personally like okay, so let's just like not saying I'm gonna go and leave my team or my org, of
Sure.
course. Like we're just gonna talk theory here.
Yeah. That's the
So
point. That's the
let's
point. We're
yeah.
not. We're not. We're
I'm
not
not
looking
gonna
for
be
any
like
gotcha
later
moments
CLG.
here. Yeah, I'm gonna clip
Yeah.
that and be like, well, Goosebreeder announces and shocking
Now
revelation
leaving.
that she is no longer on.
Yeah. So let's just say, because like my team is actually does have players who could sorry, I'm like crusty voice right now.
All right.
Who are like close to premier level. Like I personally think that I'm a high advanced caliber player who could probably hang in premier with like enough time, whatever. You know, I might suck at first, but maybe I could hang there. So that's like myself, like my teammates. We have players who have experience who've hung in advanced for a long time, which is 2 tiers under pro. And like theoretically, like you could maybe say like, hey, maybe a premier team does like might be interested in like one of our girls. Like let's just like put that thought out there. Um let's just say right now with the current state of like NA, I can only speak from NA because I honestly don't know a whole lot about EU, just like little bits and pieces like the EU Academy League. So let's say a team with like no org, no backing decided they wanted to like yo like Goose, you want to like join us like next season or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like let's say they did
Why do
like
you have to
message
make this
me.
voice like?
It's important. It's part of this. It's part of the
Alright,
skit.
Part of the
sorry.
process. Uh,
You're
Very
like, yo,
good.
what's up, Goose? Like, yeah, like let's just say someone was interested in me. Like, it would be a really difficult decision for me because although I am like very ambitious, I would love to play at higher levels. I also like I do gain a lot of resources from playing with CLG. I gain like sports psychology, a coach, like tons of resources that maybe just like a group of 5 dudes might not have like the resources that might actually like kind of give me an edge. Not only that, but of course, like there's salary, there's benefits, there's the fact that I have a visa, I can stay in the US. If I went and dipped on my if I left my org, I would lose like pretty much like my backing, right? Like my
sure.
salary. So I mean it is like a valid point. Like if you're asking someone to leave their job to make like nothing, like it would be a tough decision. But let's say
Yeah.
there is a bridge there, an
Do
org
you
or
think that
something.
only men are crazy enough to take that risk?
What risk? Sorry.
Well, that's the risk, right? That almost all competitors have to take, which is
No, it's
I'm
true.
going to
It is
go
true.
and put 100% on the line for this one thing where I have no backing, no nothing. There's nothing there. There's nothing there to save me, no safety net,
Yeah.
and I'm going to put it all on the line in the hopes that, like, do you think
No,
that
it
there?
does happen. It does happen 100%. I'm not by all means I'm not saying that that's not the case because it for sure is. But it's more like for me personally, I'm like 26 now.
Yeah,
I would to like drop my org, I would also be losing resources like that I would
sure,
also
yeah.
be gaining,
The
which is
incentives
more
are
time
all
in
the incentives
CS.
are all wrong.
Yeah. Which is more time in CS. So I'm just like talking about this because this if let's say we did like it continued with women tournaments, women orgs, then we would face that problem, right? And there would need to like if we
Yeah,
wanted to bridge the gap, we would have to face like that problem in that time. And like that's a way to like I guess bridge it. That's just an idea. It doesn't have to be that, but that was just like something I was thinking because like I do think that personally, I do think that my team could get premier, and that's a really big goal of mine because I do want to set a good example. I want to show that it's possible. We recently had a setback, but we were doing pretty decent in advance
You're already
for a long
showing good
time.
example by being in advanced. Like you were in advanced. You were
Yeah,
you were the first team to get to advanced out of all female teams.
mm-hmm.
yeah.
So you're already showing the huge like example, and this is what we can also talk about later. Go on.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I'm pretty much wrapping up what I was like thinking anyway. So I do think that it's possible that we make Premier even as an all women's team. And I guess that's a really big goal of mine because yeah, again, I just want to show that it's like
Mm.
possible. I work really hard. I don't always show it like outside of the scene. So I can understand why people might not think that. I'm trying to do a better job of representing like the women's scene recently and showing like what it takes to be better. So, yeah, I mean, like, I'm definitely like, part of my point there is that, like, with CLG's backing, I have like the luxury of doing like spending like half the day in CS if I want to, right? Um, and not having to like have to go work a second job to
Right.
like fund that. And then I could still like achieve premiere, right? That's just like something that's how I see it. I don't think it's like impossible.
What
And
you're
then from there,
describing is
yeah.
very similar to what kicked off with most of the men, though. I mean, at the beginning, the men, like, nobody remembers, but Astralis, the Astralis, well, they were all in school when they were
Yeah.
still competing pro, right?
Yeah.
Kerrigan finished a freaking Masters, while being a
Yeah.
pro, so it's like
Yeah,
finding
it's
that
definitely
balance.
possible.
I don't even know how they did it. That's crazy,
Yeah.
but that balance is possible.
Yep.
Okay, Vilga, can I get your thoughts on the topic?
Yeah, I feel like Goosebreeder already said literally everything that was on my mind.
Well,
um, no,
Goose has put a lot of thought into it, so
yeah,
that's the
for
thing.
sure. Well, first of all, about your first point about men being toxic, and I don't think that was the original idea, and this is not what ESL actually brought to us.
Okay.
The
Oh,
first
because
start
ESL
was not that.
consulted with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, ESL consulted with you about the league.
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, well that's interesting. I didn't know that. Okay.
yeah. So they asked me like, well, they had like different women. They came to different women, and they asked them, like, what is what are the problems of female esports at the moment? Like, what would we like to see in the future? What are the end goals? And so on and so on and so on, basically. And by the way, one of their initial thoughts was these cash caps that we're having right now. They're happening twice a month
Right.
on ECA. So they're like twice a month cash caps. Every female team can participate. Their initiative thought on it was to make it for mixed teams, and I was the one saying for the mix, so girls and boys only. So at least let's say
So
three
what, like
girls and two.
3 girls, 2 boys, or
Yeah,
ah,
yeah,
Mixed
yeah, yeah,
okay,
roster?
yeah. And
okay.
I was the one who told them that it's a very good idea for the future, but it's not going to be realistic right now. Why it's not going to be realistic? Because girls are just going to ask people from Navi, from Australis, from G2, can you guys play with us? It's going to be easy money for them, and this is just not how
They'll
it's
go
going to
ask
work.
Smiths.
Nice one.
Hey, okay, sorry, I had to get it in there. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's alright. Um, but it's just so many things to discuss, and it's just so many thoughts in my head. I don't even know what to start with. So basically, about your first point that you raised about that man being toxic, right? And this is why we need female-only tournaments. First of all, not man being toxic, it's just people in general being toxic, And
Right.
it
Yeah.
doesn't matter, it's a female, just like some people are not raised well and they're being shit to other people,
You just
right?
nailed it. Yep, that's it. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but the problem here is that when the man joins the game and he starts talking,
Oh,
he's not being trash talk from the first seconds.
true.
But when a girl joins, I joined the game, let's say I would play solo face it. I press my microphone, I say hi guys. I would I would get so much hate for it. You can't even imagine. So from the ninth round, I would get hated. I would get doubted. I would get messages like, "We lost. We have a woman in the team.
Right.
GG." And so on and so on and so on. My teammates, it's not even my teammates. Um, I remember a situation when I was playing like a matchmaking. Well, I mean like in general, like Face It something, and I was playing duo with a friend. And we had 3 teammates who were just attacking me the whole game. I wasn't playing bad. They were attacking me because I was a girl. I started crying because of it. I felt so like, helpless, so like powerless. Like I didn't know what I can do. I tried to show
Mm.
by my game. I tried to communicate. I tried to ignore it. I tried to mute them. But in the end of the day, the game finished. I just sat there. I just closed my face with my palms and I was just started crying because why do I deserve this? What did I do wrong? Second point is that like my teammate asking me, do you know any programs, which will make you change your voice in game,
Mm-hmm.
so she can like communicate with people, stuff like this. It's just so easy to talk from the outside view, Like when I see the comments of guys like writing shit about like, oh, just ignore them, just mute them, just you probably raised that's what I get a lot. You probably already grown a thick skin. You don't pay attention to this anymore. Yeah, of course I'm used to it, but it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt me when I see it. Like, I'm a very proud person. I work hard, and I feel like I deserve some fucking respect for what I have achieved during my years. But people are like just trash talking every game
Yeah.
against me, with me, and it's just so hard to deal with it. Especially like I'm a professional. I understand that this is just a part of my job. Like I just have to deal with it. But imagine those girls who like they're innocent. They just start in the game. They just playing this matchmaking for the first time of their life, and the first thing they see is not how to buy grenades or how to buy like something in the game. The first thing they see is the fucking hate from their teammates. They don't even understand where it's coming from because they don't even know the game yet. And
Mm-hmm.
apparently you can talk in this game. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just
Well, there's a reason why there's no voice comms in LoL.
Yeah.
yeah, but this is not how it should be. It's a team game. Like I'm not saying that it only happens in CS and this is like the CS problem. I'm saying like I said in the beginning, it's just people's problem. People like internet's problem, the new generation problem. They feel like they're in the internet, they're not touched. Like how it was before. If someone would say
Exactly.
something about your mom,
Yeah.
this guy is fucking dead. You know what I mean? Like
Well,
when
yeah,
there's
yeah.
no internet,
Do
it's
you,
like
do you know that
every
Tyson
bad word
quote?
to you.
Do you know that Tyson quote
Yeah,
where it's
go
like the
on.
internet made people way too comfortable with not getting punched in the face for saying like,
Yeah, that's a good quote.
yeah, it's
Exactly.
like,
And I'm not saying you should punch the faces. No, I'm not saying this. I'm
Not
just saying
condoning
that
violence.
no,
only
no.
violence for fuck's sake.
But
But
that is I think you nailed a really important part of it. But I think personally, I think that is actually the real issue here, in that people are
yeah,
not being raised correctly on how to interact with others. People are not
yeah,
being raised on social skills. People are not, but that's a hard thing to do on the internet. Where in real life, like you said, right, like I said, whatever, like Tyson said, in real life, if you act like a dick, odds are you're gonna get punched in the face, and you learn that very early on. Like as a young kid, you're going to learn that if you're the bully in the classroom and somebody else figures out they can punch you in the face, they're going to punch you in the face. The problem is
yeah,
that on the internet, where anonymity is possible, and the only thing that a bully can latch onto is your voice comm, because everything else can be anything, right? Your name, your avatar, whatever. There's nothing
yeah,
there that can give it away unless they call you a weeb, because you have an anime avatar or something like that, right? But like, there's very little that they can latch onto apart from the voice. And so the
Mm.
bully, because bullies are everywhere, assholes are everywhere, unfortunately, is going to just react to the first thing he can. And it's like women deal with it, and squeakers, right? Young boys. Because they have the high pitched voice, and they can't hide it. They can't change it. They need the modulator as well, because you're always gonna be like, well, shut up, kid. What do you know? You're just gonna start bullying the kid because he's the kid. Like, go play with your Legos, right? So it's like, so
actually, when I talk in game, sorry for interrupting
yeah,
you,
go for
but
it.
I'm so happy when people ask me, like, for example, when I played Valorant, people don't know my nickname there at all, obviously, and I would talk in game, and they would ask me if I'm a boy, and I would be so happy to hear that question because I would say yes, and I would just keep on playing without having any sexist
Oh,
comments towards me.
okay,
You can
interesting.
continue.
Well, that was the adaptation on the fly, real good there. I think. Okay, so let's say that. I think what's going on here, and that's what rubs me the wrong way with the messaging from the ESL thing, is that I think you actually nailed the point that is being made here, which is that people need to learn how to act like people again online. But that's a really hard point, right? That's a really hard argument to make, and also really hard to get people to do. Whereas it's much easier to just say, well, 95% of the people playing CSGO are men. So men are assholes, right? Like, isn't it just easier to just be like, oh, well, men are assholes, obviously, because all
Yeah,
men
but
are
no one said
assholes, right?
that.
That's in the opening paragraph in terms of the on the website. We can actually. I mean, I can't look at it. Wait, can I look at it here?
I guess I could like add to that while you're looking for it.
Sure.
If you want
Well,
something.
here we have it. Initiatives.
Yeah, but
Let's see.
okay, good.
GGFORALL will launch a range of new initiatives designed to tackle discrimination, promote mental well-being, and progress environmental sustainability. Also, the environmental sustainability in esports, but that's a different topic. But how long will we accept discrimination and toxicity as just part of the game? I mean, when 99% of your player base is men, and you're saying that it's discriminatory and toxic, I mean, it doesn't take much of a leap, right?
Well, no, because females are also fucking toxic. I'm sorry, but
Sometimes more toxic than men.
when I read this, I'm not thinking about like that's the point. Like when I hear this paragraph, I don't hear that they mean men are being toxic. I just hear toxicity and discrimination. That's the whole point of it. And it doesn't matter who it's coming from the girls or from the men. I also got bullied by girls. Not bullied. No, I'm never getting bullied by girls. But I'm just saying, like some girls were
No, you
really
do the
toxic
bullying,
to
Vilga.
me.
That's right. You
I'm
show those
fucking
girls who's
I'm
boss.
the bully. Yeah.
But I met like some toxic girls in game as well.
Uh-huh.
So
That's how I interpreted it. I thought it was more so just like, I guess it's a bit of interpretation. And I mean, I guess it just depends how you see it.
Mm-hmm.
But I
true.
did actually have kind of like a thought while you were talking, you two, about
Sure.
like, yeah, so I was just, as you were talking about, like, it's hard to just like tell people to like, hey, like, where's your manners kind of thing, like, learn how to talk to people. But like something that I actually have noticed is just, I've been like gaming for ages now, like over 10 years. And I have like seen the change over time with like acceptance of women, and
Mm-hmm.
people are a little bit more normal towards you in game settings. Even just from like in real life, like people don't expect women to play games. And then it's like become to the point where like, okay, yeah, girls play games. And then it's like more so like now when you're in the lobbies, it's like, how are you treated? How are you treated on Twitter? And I do think that there's been a positive change over time, which I think like is partially also helpful with like just sheer numbers and representation. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, like Valorant, there's like a lot of chicks, honestly, playing Valorant. In my experience, compared to like the past.
Sure, sure, sure.
And I do think that
It's more cartoony.
yeah,
I
yeah. I
mean,
mean, that does
CS
probably
is
pay. It does,
realistic.
yeah,
It's CTs shooting Ts in the face and planting bombs. It's not
yeah.
super. It's not. It's appealing to kind of like more of a subset, I think, and just in pros in general. I think we see that in the
I mean,
male
it's
pros as
definitely a
well.
cuter
CS pros are
game.
more mature than other pros. That's just the way it is for the most part that I've noticed, at least because I've worked in other games. I've worked in
Mm,
Blizzard games.
mm,
Totally different pros. They're not CS pros.
yeah,
So CS appeals to a certain subset of people. It's just the way it is.
yeah. I guess like where I was kind of like getting at was more that like I think exposure and representation like helps. And I've actually was just reading like a tweet today. I think her name was Tiffany. I don't know if she's on Gen G. She was something about like just like a game she had. Some guy was like talking shit, and basically like people actually stood up for her. They're like, dude, like yada yada. They like the whole lobby was like, bro, like catch a grip, basically. Like I'm just paraphrasing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that happens like more often, like nowadays. Like, and I think that exposure, more women getting involved, is definitely like a big help to that, for sure. So
Do
I
you
think
think
that
that
like
that has anything to do with men acting more like men as well? Because I mean, in my opinion,
mm,
men shouldn't be. If bullying is happening, you should put a stop to it, right?
yeah, for
So it doesn't
sure.
matter if it's a kid, a girl, whatever. Like if somebody's being an asshole, you tell that person to stop. So
Yeah,
do you
I
think
mean,
that
I
has
think
something to
you're
do as
right.
well, where it's like
Yeah, no, for sure. Like definitely like maturing, people checking each other, even just regardless of if you're being sexist. Like I check people all the time if they say like crazy stuff. Like I literally had a guy yesterday. I played a pug and he said a racist comment. Not had nothing to do with me, but he said a racist comment. And I like checked him, and that's like stuff like anyone should do, really, regardless of what they're
okay,
being toxic about. Like just discrimination in general is just not really. I mean, it's not cool, and we should definitely check people. I think it's just like a bit of both, right? I think exposure definitely helps, and the more people are comfortable with women being a part of their games, the more I think people will be like, "Yo, that's not cool." I think it just kind of goes hand in hand because you can't really control if people are mature or not. I guess you could try to
you
set a
can't.
good
No.
influence, but there's not a whole lot you could do about like if some dude wants to be weird on the internet. It's not
Yeah.
a whole lot you can do about it. But you can control encouraging growth You can try to create more exposure, get better representation, stuff like that.
Well, this was going to be my this was going to be my next question. I think we've done a good
Uh,
job talking on the GG for all aspect of it, at least
uh,
in terms of toxicity. I feel like it's much more of an internet thing, and also perhaps more reacting to. I mean, CS is a competitive game. If you've got somebody who you deem a casual in the game, whether it be a boy or even just a regular casual, just like, get out of here, noob. Like, there's a certain culture involved, and we happen to be playing in that culture. Now, can we change the culture over a long period of time? That's certainly something that we can do. But I think the messaging is important in how we do that, and that's probably where we can leave that point. But what I'm curious about, and this was something that we touched on earlier, but when we talk about these next steps, right? So this league is a next step. I mean, there's been competition now with female Counter-Strike for like 15 years solid. And they've been running side by side with male tournaments for 15 years solid.
That's a
And
good
a
point.
lot of that for CSGO. From the beginning of CSGO, there's been female competition. So, so what are we learning from the past?
Yeah.
What's carrying on from the past, and that's going to change going forward, or is this going to be more of the same?
Yeah, no, you're for sure right, because like if we're repeating, we need to be doing something differently, right?
Right. So what's the different thing that gets that bridge? Because that was my
Yeah.
second tweet or point or whatever is. I
Yeah.
feel like this is more of the same, where we're going to have an isolated bubble, and there's going to be a skill ceiling because you can only get as good as the people you're competing against. If you isolate yourself from the rest of the competition, that's going to be it, right?
Yeah.
So what are we doing to bridge that gap?
Yeah.
What is the next step that's different?
So I guess I did read some of that. I actually was thinking about it, honestly, myself too. Like, what's the difference, honestly? Like, what's going to change, right? Part of, I think there's a point to, and this may not be like the answer, it might just be a factor, and we might still need a bridge, right? I definitely think we need a bridge at some point, for sure, like 100%. But I think something that's different between the two is, um, I think just like time, honestly, passing, people getting more comfortable with women, like just my personal experience. And I bet you if you spoke to a lot of women around my age, our generation,
Mm-hmm.
they would probably tell you very similar stories. Like when I was in high school, like I hid that I played games. Like no one, practically no one really knew until I like kind of like told some people, um, because it just like wasn't cool. Like girls playing games, like yuck, yo, get out of our space kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was the opposite for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I think it's like who you ask, really. Like sometimes you're blessed.
Petra's
So
Petra's over here just
My
like, I had to
schoolmates
beat
were
him off with
like,
a stick. Get out of here, boys.
the guys couldn't get off Vilga.
It's
Yeah,
different in
but
Moscow.
yeah, it's just
I was walking
different.
like this. Like,
Yeah. Just like 4x3 beam. Yeah.
do.
Yeah, that's funny. I think that that's partially maybe an influence that I think the Valorant thing with I think Valorant showing that they made a big difference is also
What are they doing
partially like
differently over there? As I understand it, the women can compete with the men, and it's all one league, or is that not
I think it's
correct?
that they openly like the game Valorant itself openly said like we're standing like for women. I think that's how like I interpreted it is the
Okay.
game's like backing women in gaming. Like that's more of how I interpret it, and I think that's partially why I mean as well as like I do think that the game itself does cater to like I mean it's cute, like there's cute characters. I
Yeah.
think that is a
There's
part to play.
skills. It's less about aim, more about skills.
Yeah, I mean
I mean, there's more
it's
ways
just
to
a
contribute
cute
without
game.
aim.
Yeah. I mean, you could probably think of a lot of reasons. I do think part of the reason why maybe nothing happened is just like I think over time like things will change. I personally think that like this next generation will be set up pretty well in my opinion. I think there's like already a lot of young girls who are playing. I've met like 15-year-old chicks, like even younger who are like playing games right now and that's like pretty
Mm.
sick. Like they're it's actually a lot more common than I feel like in the past it would be.
And that goes
So
into my next question.
yeah,
And
go
we'll
ahead.
start with Vilga. Or with Vilga, I don't know. Actually, I kind of cut you off there. Do you want to jump in on this topic, or do you want to get into the next one? Okay, Vilga, you're actually, because given your experience, you actually
Yeah.
I think are going to have a lot of insight on this one, and that is why is it so difficult? Because everybody's just like, well, there's nothing stopping women from competing, and why don't we have mixed teams? Well, it's like, do you have any insight on why we don't have any mixed teams, or why that's not a thing?
Hmm.
Like, what's holding women back from joining a team of 4 guys, apart from the 4 guys needing to be monks?
Okay, I will talk from my experience. I was playing with guys. Like, obviously, I play a lot with guys, right? I play with girls only when I play pracs, and sometimes recently, like, we play facets a lot. But in general, my whole life, I've been playing with guys. Like outside the practice, I was always like taught by guys. I was given examples, so on and so on and so on. So there was once I was playing for like 6 months every day with a stack of people, 4 or 5, like 6 guys, from, the same group. We were playing together a lot, and I was playing good. Uh, I was not playing worse than any of them. I was playing the same level, and I once asked one guy as a joke, "Would you play with me in the team?" And he said no. Like he was so fast with it. He was like, "No."
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Okay,
Okay.
why?" And he said, "Because you're a girl." I'm like, "Okay." I didn't even want to, like ask, like, "Can you collaborate and stuff like this?" Well, it was just, the person says, and it just like happens so often that I don't know, guys would just rather take guys because girls are girls. I don't know how to explain this. It's just like this, like I don't know what they're afraid of. They're afraid of like talking to girls, they're afraid of like all the drama that it can cause, they're afraid of like maybe relationships that can happen. I have no
Mm.
idea, but I'm just, you know, I
That's
just
kind
had
of
this
why I set you up
experience.
there with that, or I set you up where I say 4 monks,
Yeah.
because it feels to me like there would be a lot of. I mean, okay, so again, the usual setting for playing pro Counter Strike is that you're in your like late teens, early 20s. Um, odds are you're a nerd. You're just playing games 100% all the time. You have zero contact with women, most likely zero contact socially at all. CS maybe a little bit more than other games, but
Yeah,
like social skills are not your forte because you really are just pretty much drilled in on playing Counter Strike. Um,
yeah.
so it's hard enough to get that kind of person to interact with four other men or 4 other boys, men, whatever, male competitors,
Mhm.
to get them to work together. Now, do you think that like adding a woman into that scene, into that environment,
Mhm.
is it just an extra factor that could lead to friction that rather than just another man, right? Is that extra
Yeah,
factor
definitely.
worth the risk of friction? We'll put it that way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like
And for
when I
most
was
of them,
thinking
it
about
does.
this topic, I
It's
was
not.
like, okay, if I was a team owner and I was sitting here thinking, okay, I've got 2 equally skilled players, one is a man and one is a woman, and they're both equally skilled, but I have to
Mhm.
take into account all the other factors involved, right? If
Mhm.
it's the man, I can drop him from the team next week and nobody's going to say anything because he sucks, right? If he doesn't fit into the team, I can drop him next week. Nobody's going to care. If it's the woman and I drop her from the team next week because she's not good, um, all of a sudden it's like, oh, there could be all sorts of issues involved with that, right? So it's like I feel like this focus that's being put on male female, this intense focus that's being put on male female, is actually having the reverse effect that it's desired, right? Because if you didn't put so much of an emphasis on male female, if you just said, hey, I'm a pro, like I'm a pro, male, female, it doesn't matter. I'm a pro. I'm the best
Yeah.
there is, and you want me on your team. If that's the angle that you're taking, then it doesn't matter that you're male or female. And if you're good, they keep you on the team. If you're bad, get rid of her, right? They're not going to think about it. But because it's such a big deal being made about male, female, now they have to think about it, and they have to think about the optics of, well, if we bring her on the team, but she's just not good enough. Like we need to get rid of her. How do we go about that without having some kind of PR shitstorm that's going to blow up in our faces? That it feels like that's a thing that everybody's being set up for now, and that's just adding an extra block in the way of women getting into those mixed teams.
Yeah, okay, but there are reasons why this is happening, right? There are reasons why, like, there's so much talk about female and male and that we need to hire more females, blah, 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 blah.
Sure,
Like,
grifters.
there are reasons for it because, like, women being fucking discriminated their whole existence.
Yeah, but
Only now,
not in CS. I mean, you have equal opportunity. You can compete in all the tournaments. In fact, I mean, women have women
yeah,
only tournaments. Men don't have men only
yeah,
tournaments.
yeah,
I
Yeah,
think
but
what Vilga said is actually like more common than you think too,
Sure.
actually. Like I have heard from I didn't compete mixed for a very long time. I did play mixed like I mean I was fortunate enough to get like noticed really early, I guess, when I started playing CS:GO. But I do play with like dudes all the time, but in
Sure.
terms of like joining a team, I have heard a lot of women who have told me specifically that like they have a lot of issues like trying to get onto a mixed team or I know of like female friends who have like had to listen to very uncomfortable comments from teammates. Like you can't just be like another player.
Mm.
And I think regardless of if we fixated on female or male, women or men, this problem would still happen because I mean it was probably happening when Bilga, like probably when you were younger too, like just from a lot of stories, not just a couple. I've read it, heard it enough to know that it's a common problem. Like when women want to join into a mixed team, they could be of like equal skill, and they just have one other barrier to face. And even
Yeah.
speaking from experience, I do think I'm at a point where I'm like relatively respected now. Like at this point, I'm in FPLC. I don't get any shit from my peers, thankfully. I'm pretty much safe in FPLC and when I play with friends, and like that's it. If I solo queue, I still run the risk of getting like just who knows on my team just not having a good day and they want to attack me. Like I still run that risk even after like all of that I've like shown for the game, like my dedication, whatever. Like I could be better than everyone in the lobby. They'll still have something to say to me. Uh and like I mean, at that point like I just feel like uh, it's a bit of like a double-edged sword, but I do think, and I know from hearing other women giving me their opinions, it does feel like it's an extra, like we have to do like a little bit more to like have to prove ourselves, basically.
Right.
Like kind of what Vilga is saying with joining a team, like you have to be like 2 times that player to be like
yeah,
picked up over them.
definitely.
And
Mm-hmm.
so to
I
me, that's not necessarily very equal, I
Yeah,
guess.
like some girls like the Sia, she wrote me in the comment like or someone else, it was Julie. She wrote me like I'm not gonna start talking until I get 3 kills, 3 or 4 kills in the pistol round. You know, like this,
Yeah, I saw that.
it shouldn't be like this. Like
So it's
everyone
like
should
yes
be
and
talking
no.
equally.
I think if you look at it on like a
About
black and white paper, I think you could say that. Um, I think there is like some fair points to that, but I think it's just like behind the scenes, like from experience of a lot of women, it's not it's not as like equal as it seems.
Mm-hmm.
Just for those barriers, it does feel
about
like. Go
sorry,
ahead.
go
Go
on, go
ahead.
on. I just want to talk about this stuff. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And it's not like I mean, there's even like work fields that are very like they don't have a lot of women and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But I know
Because
like
free
even women
will
who work in those.
is an issue, isn't it? Right. I
What
mean,
is it? Sorry?
free will is an issue, isn't it? I mean, you have to account for free will. Or let's say you have to make you. I mean, women are allowed to choose whether they want to play CS:GO or Valorant, and if for
Mm.
whatever reason they want to play Valorant, well then they want to play Valorant. Odds are because it's easier. But that's
Yeah, that's why
everybody now
anyone
these
goes
days,
to
right?
Valorant. So
That's everybody
that's
these
why
days. Although
anyone.
to be fair, like my joke is always that if somebody can make equal money in CS:GO, they're going to pick CS:GO over Valorant any day of the week. But
Yeah, I like CS better, but I'm also biased.
exactly. But you're also biased. We're all biased. We're all a little bit
We're all
biased here.
biased.
We're all a little bit
True.
biased here. Fair enough. But
Yeah.
all right. I mean, it seems like on this issue at least, it's the question of toxicity, and it's the question of how do we deal with general toxicity, because we've already established that both men and women can be toxic. So how I feel like we're going to be pushing it's like a Sisyphean task. We're going to be pushing a boulder uphill here, because I'm not quite sure how you would go about changing the internet as a whole, because I feel like what we're dealing with is much more about the internet as a whole than we are about specifically CS:GO or
Yeah.
and also internet as a whole, but also upbringing as a whole. Like, how do you teach people from a young age how to act with other people in an environment where you're anonymous? Um, where there's no repercussions at all for your actions, essentially, apart from whatever upbringing you've had or the people that are around you that can show you or teach you that this is not how you act, right? If you're bullying, you need people. There needs to be people around to say, no, that's not accepted here, right? And Munir, I mean, or Goosebreeder, you've already made it clear that, at least in your experience over the past few years, that's been the case. We're already seeing that shift, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
no, I actually think I was actually really surprised with the reaction to ESL, like mainly positive, because I mean, honestly, like I get like shit, honestly, even like when I do read about like women tournaments. I even remember I like did an article at Frag. I was at Frag at Alfie. I did an article. He was just asking, he was just talking about like women events. The scene was like kind of dying at the time. I was just like talking about it, and it got put on Twitter, and um, practically nobody read the article. They read the headline and they just made tons of assumptions, and just like it's just like really frustrating, to be honest.
that's general news consumption today, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, but it's just
most
more
people just read the
specifically with
headline.
like, yeah, no, for sure. But it's more that like all the assumptions they make about like women in gaming, they don't really know me at all. They don't know what I do. They just assume that I'm like not very good, stuff like that. I remember even reading like a Reddit comment. I don't even know who this person was, but they're like, "Yeah, I met her once. She's chill, but by far not the best female player." I'm like, "This guy does not know me if that's his
If
opinion."
we're gonna
Like,
start bringing up Reddit comments, I mean,
no, I
well,
can't stand Reddit
because us
comments. I'm
casters,
sorry.
man, us casters are just the most oppressed people on the internet, as far as I'm concerned. The amount of shit we get on a daily basis, the thick skin that I have to do my job.
It's brutal. For sure, brutal. I stay off Reddit. Every time I'm on Reddit, I regret it instantly. I'm like, "Why did I read this thread?
That's
It's
pretty much it.
full of trash." But
Also,
yeah,
these people who apparently are high level producers who all happen to be in Reddit, who fully understand what's going on in our production room
who have
and
played
have
way
all the
more
answers for
Counter-Strike
the.
than
And
any
I'm
of
just like,
us.
why have we not
Yeah.
hired this guy? Where is this guy in my life?
Find this guy's contact information and put him on your like coaching staff. Yeah. No, I was actually really surprised with the reactions recently. I do see a clear shift. Like it's not like day and night. But yeah, I do notice like a difference where um I do feel like a little more accepted as like just a chick playing games, and
Hmm.
I don't know. It's just it's very subtle, but I have noticed for sure like change over time.
I'm very curious, actually. This is a question that I wanted to have for you. Was Have you noticed any resentment from tier 2 or tier 3 pros? Because if you're thinking
Like
about like tier 2,
okay.
tier 3 pros, right? Those guys grind day in, day out. They pretty much put
Yeah,
everything on
like
the line to
uh-huh.
to earn dog shit money. Or at least they're making more money now, but
Mhm.
really they're doing everything they can to just get by to compete in CS:GO and have a chance at getting into tier 1, right, where the real money is.
Yeah.
So, have you noticed any kind of reaction from them when this announcement came out that there's a $500,000 league for women? Have you noticed any reaction from the tier 2 or tier 3 pros when that news came out?
Not that I know of. Personally, from my experience, because I do play with like a decent amount of those players. I do like I've scrimmed against advanced players tons of times.
Yeah.
I've scrimmed against the premier teams too. Like we do get premier scrims, which is pretty cool, honestly, which means there's some level of respect, right? If a premier team is like gonna scrim us. Um no, I actually feel like I think over time I've gained more respect. Personally, I can only speak from my perspective, and I guess what I've seen. Maybe I miss comments, maybe I don't have the same experience, but I do think that people are relatively like cool with me. I guess because I'm not like a dick or anything. I get along with people typically. Uh, Maybe it's part of like the person I am, but I think that overall I have experienced like a decent amount of respect among like my peers around my
Hmm.
level and higher. And I think it kind of goes with I don't know if you've read the article. I could find it. I can't find it right now, but I could get it for you if you want. It basically, in summary, says that like um, more specifically men, because this is like the study that it was like when women are playing with like men, men who were typically less skilled than the women
Yes.
would
Yes.
feel attacked. They would feel like their status is threatened,
Hmm.
but the men who were better than the women don't feel threatened. Uh,
But that's how it
yeah,
is
because their
with
status
men as
isn't.
well. That's how it
Yeah.
operates when only men are in the room. It's the same. It's just that women are now introduced into that
But if a
right?
dude is better than you, if I okay, so I've honestly rarely like experienced because I play with guys who are better than me all the time.
Sure.
And unless you're like someone who's really well known, you usually don't get much attention, like a pro or something. But typically it's not the same where like they're just like bagging on this guy because he's better. I
Mm-hmm.
think usually from what I experience, it's more of like uh I don't get the impression that they are threatened or feel like they need to attack the guy on the same team at least. I think on the other team, like, yeah, that guy's goal is to like get in this dude's head because he's owning him right now. That's
Yeah.
like different. Like that definitely happens. But I think on the same team, it's not I don't see it as often. There's no studies on it that I know of. Maybe that study included it, but I don't think that's the case personally, but again, like I could even try to find the study and like read it in depth, but that that was like I mean it was like specifying that, so I could
Mm-hmm.
like send it to you later if you want to.
Absolutely. Please share. Yeah, I'd love
Yeah.
to read it. Vilga, what do you think? Or what do you think on this topic? Have you or do you think that this could breed resentment from the tier 2, tier 3 pros that they don't have access to the money, they don't have access to the support, and yet they're working just as hard?
They do have money from, to be honest. I saw good comments only, to be honest. I only saw few people who are not, who are talking trash about this whole initiative.
Mm-hmm.
But many Valorant pros actually were supporting this whole thing.
Yeah, but I
So,
don't care about
and
Valorant pros.
normally,
They can go and deal with Riot if they want. I mean,
yeah, but still, they're like many of them are ex CSGO players as well.
A lot of them were tier 2 as
mm-hmm.
well,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
guess. I
Exactly. They
guess a
couldn't
lot of the Valorant were.
they couldn't hack it in CS, so they went to Valorant.
Yeah, but I mean, it's all very complicated topic, to be
It is.
honest.
It is. It is.
I
It is.
don't think
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair to say like, uh, to get back to, for example, your point that girls will not compete against boys if they're gonna have the tournaments. We actually had the example of the opposite. In 2019 and 2020, there were the scene was really active. We had a lot of tournaments. We like we had 5 or 6 tournaments a year,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a lot of teams, a lot around 50 or 60 teams
Yep.
qualifying, playing in the qualifications. I mean, and back then I saw around 20 female teams in ECA Open, 20. And when I saw this number, I was so surprised. I was so impressed because we never saw like almost any female teams in the ECA Open, which is like a mixed league, right, for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then 2020-21, there was no female tournaments at all. We literally had like three tournaments per year, and the prize pool was 500 euro, 1,000 euro.
Yep.
So everyone switched to Valorant.
Yep.
Everyone stopped competing. So basically, when there is scene, when there are teams, when there is competition, girls not only compete among each other, they also compete like, okay, so this team, they qualify to, intermediate. Okay, I want to do the same. They see this, like
Yeah.
it motivates them,
Representation too.
yeah, to get on the level, get on the higher level because of this. And basically, like this competition, it creates like, you know, stronger better opportunities, stronger skill in
I'd
general.
like to add to that too, Vilga, because I think this is important, and I think it's something I've been realizing very recently. People like you, Vilga, or like me, people who've been in this scene. Are you guys Semmler?
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
You're
I'm
good.
trying. Okay. Um, because in the I have because we've asked this question before, or we've asked this question of ourselves, and so we did some
Yeah.
research on the topic, right? And so when it comes to like, because at the end of the day, this is also a business, and this is always what
Yep.
what it eventually comes back to, and this is why when I flippantly say I don't care about Riot, it's that Riot is not a business in that sense. It's an artificial amount of money that's coming into the scene from their marketing department. They're owned by Tencent. They have more money than God. It's not realistic what they do, right? They just spend money because they flex and they can. It's not actually sustainable. Whereas in CSGO, the companies existing in CSGO are not backed by Valve. They get some help from Valve if they run the majors. They get some help, but it's pretty much like they have to find sponsors. They have to make money somehow, or they die. It's not like Blizzard. It's not like Riot. It's not like those. So when we compare, it's like when we compare those scenes and saying like, oh, but they're going over to Valorant and making money in Valorant. I'm like, yeah, I don't care, because that's all artificial. That doesn't exist in the real world. The real world is the third-party system that we have here in CSGO, where these guys are actually having to go out and find sponsorship and actually find ways to make money. Because at the end of the day, even the male scene is a business. It doesn't exist unless you find sponsors and you sell tickets. It doesn't exist. Simple doesn't make the insane amount of money he makes if he's not selling mouses and all that sort of stuff, right? So when I looked at this, I had one of my viewers on my stream was very friendly. He actually helpful. He collected like all of the women tournaments from 2020, or not all of them, but the DreamHack women tournaments from 2020. And I was trying to find a way to share this with you, and whatever, I might as well just do this. I'll do that. Bam. No.
Yeah, I think there was like summer and winter, if I believe.
No. I'm trying to find. Is this our chat? Yes, this is our chat. Good. I just put that in there, and then here the We Play. So I did a comparison between the two, right? Which I found fairly interesting. And this is, so it's like you have the numbers from the viewership statistics from DreamHack women's tournaments, where it's peak viewers and hours watched. And hours watched is the really interesting one, because obviously that's how long can you keep somebody watching? They see more ads the longer they watch.
That's usually what ads.
That's usually what's getting you money with the sponsors, because just more eyeballs, longer on there, more chance to see the logo, more money. So there's just a hard comparison here, where it's just like, okay, there were more tournaments, but then eventually the tournaments went away. But if you look at the numbers involved, well, then you can see why the numbers would go away. If they're trying to run something where they can sell sponsorship on it, the numbers that are being generated by women's tournaments are not really that high. And so that's where it's like, at least it grounds us in reality, or it gives us a better idea of like what it is that we're working with, versus just these ideals of, it's like, it should be this way. It's like, yes, I agree, it should be this way, but how do we get from point A to point B? Like, how do we get there? Because I'm not saying let's not get there. What I'm saying is let's find a way to get there realistically, and that's rock solid, that we're building year on year, rather than just like, here's 500,000 that's going to drop out of the sky because some TO has this in their marketing budget. And it's not something sustainable, because if this doesn't work, it goes away next year. Yeah. Right. So if ESL make no money on this, or there's no return on it, then it goes away next year, and the whole initiative just goes away. Right. So unless we can find a way to bring viewership in and to bring interest, the whole thing goes away. Right. So
if you look at the numbers, they are scaled.
Sorry.
If you look at the numbers, they're scaled like perfectly. Like there's 100,000 prize pool, the peak viewers is 28,000. There's 20 for female, it's 20,000 prize pool, which is 5 times less, and it's 6,000 viewers, which is 5 times less as well.
Oh, well, I'm looking at hours watched. We Play Academy season 2, almost 700,000 hours watched.
I'm actually curious. Is it possible to? I don't know how he did this, but do you think they could compare like 2019?
I would like to see that. Let's take 2019.
Because 2020 honestly was a pretty dead year. It was just online stuff.
Yeah.
My opinion. There wasn't like a whole lot
But this is in the
going
same
on.
period of time, right? We could say. In the sense that if we look at,
I think 2019 had more tournaments, but I think what you're trying to get at still is like a fair point, because you want to create something sustainable.
I want something that's sustainable, that's a business, and that can build year on year, right? And it's not just going to die overnight when some cynical marketing hack who's out there like, oh, this is probably a good initiative, and I have this much money and I'll just throw it at this. Like, he doesn't care about women. He doesn't care about supporting anything. He just has money to spend on an initiative. And he just needs to get rid of that money, because if he doesn't get rid of that money, his marketing budget doesn't grow next year. So, it's also cynical. It really is annoying, because they claim one thing, but in reality, it's just a completely different thing. Whereas I would be much more interested in like, okay, how do we realistically build year on year and find a way to generate interest, viewership, and then we can sell sponsorship and we can grow, right? Like an actual grassroots approach, not this this approach, right?
Yeah, I guess that's why
Yeah.
I'm curious what the 2019 stats were, because I actually do remember, I think DreamHack Valencia did relatively well, didn't it, Vilga? I,
Um,
I, I
I'm not sure about this.
remember,
I remember ESL Katowice did really well. I remember the first one had 70,000 viewers in the finals. 70,000.
yeah,
That's
that's why
it.
17.
I'm
It was
curious.
huge.
Yeah, like 7-0.
I
I
remember
don't
that
know
too.
the
Actually, I
stats.
remember one of the tournaments popping off and having tens of thousands. Yeah,
I
I
think
remember something like
Valencia
that.
did decent too, but I wasn't watching it live for the most part, so I don't
Mm-hmm.
really recall.
Okay.
I was just got the
Hey.
stream on my phone.
The problem
Yeah.
is that people, well, it's actually coming from both sides, okay? Like, if we want to change the viewership, like, both sides should be changing them. Not only like TOs, trying to promote female gaming, trying to promote the streams, but also the female players themselves.
Yeah.
Yes,
Because,
I
for
agree.
example, people think that female players fucking suck. That's why they don't watch it. Well, in reality, well,
You would
most
both
of the
kick the shit out of
female
me. It wouldn't even be close.
exactly. Well, top female teams, they play better than the majority of gamers in CS. You
Yes.
know what I mean? Like better than 95% of people, they play better. But because of this, narrative that female players are suck,
Mm-hmm.
people don't watch it. But so what we can do for it? First of all, we as players can change people's mind. We as players can be like, showing that we can be good, showing that we can be, like competing on the good level.
Yep.
Playing EC, like for example, like I said, CLG, they already showed great example. They are in advanced. Did you know that they're advanced? Similar.
No.
Exactly. Why don't you know
Okay.
about
But to
it?
be fair, total honesty here, I only watched tier one. I don't give two shits about anybody else.
Yeah,
I only
and
watch
most
tier
of
one
other
too, so
people,
fair.
most of other
Like, I
people,
don't even watch
exactly.
WePlay. They paid me to watch WePlay. It's that like to cast it. That was it. Like, I don't even watch WePlay. Although now I do because I did it once. So now I kind of like keep a tabs on it. But like before that, I didn't know any of those players. I didn't watch any of that. I only
Yeah,
watched
but
tier one.
exactly, that's what I'm saying. But like,
But
we need
that's
this
all
kind of
sports. That's all
examples.
competition. Most people, like, you can find
Yeah,
this everywhere.
yeah,
It's like most people, the vast majority of people, they watch the tier one the best, and then
yeah. All
they
right,
go down if they get really hardcore
but
or if there's
yeah.
gambling. But it's
But now
then
we're
they go
comparing
down.
the WePlay. Now we're
Sorry.
comparing the WePlay and ESL, right? So we are not comparing Tier 1 with female gaming. We're comparing like academy teams with female gaming. So we need to talk about this,
Yeah.
audience. So let's say it's about the bats. Why people watch tier 2, tier 3? Because of the bats? Maybe. I watch it a lot actually. I watch like tier 2, tier 3 demos. Many like most of the times I watch their demos because these are teams that brings new stuff in the game. They
Okay.
are, the competition there on that level is so high. It's actually crazy. They need
Yeah.
to like come up with new ideas, with new metas, with new strategies all the time. So like, if you want to find something cool, you need to watch these demos. So and about female players, then we just need, like this kind of examples, like I said, of female teams winning even tier 3, like tier 4 teams. People like teams that people know about. And we not only need it happening once or twice, because this actually happened several times. For example, like Exit Girls, right? Like
Yeah.
Mimi, Juliana,
Giuliano and
Zaz.
Zaz, they went over to
Yeah,
Valorant though.
but before they went to Valorant, they qualified for main and they won the. Oh no, they didn't win it, but it was like 2-1 score, I think, against ex-Godsend players as well, like Snyder and company. And no
Right.
one
Right.
knows
Yeah.
about it. No one knows about it because
I
it
remember
happens
that.
like,
It popped up on HLTV. I saw it. Yeah.
yeah. But it happens like stuff like this happens so like rarely that people don't pay attention to it. So what we
Hmm.
need to do here is to make it happen more often. How do you
Indeed.
make it happen more often? To participate on the level of these teams, to play like more qualifiers, to play like, play better teams during the pracs and stuff like this. I
So
just, when I see this kind of comments, like that you said, for example, that female only tournaments, they will create this um ceiling, and female players will not compete. Like, I think this is like the best opportunity for us because we can compete there to have more players, to have more like to find more talents to choose from who has this competitiveness, who have this hard working. And then we can also participate in these qualifiers. And just I'm the person who always thinks that it's always better to get wrecked by pros, by better players, and learn from it than just be winning and winning and winning against noobs.
But you've just made my point for me.
How exactly?
That by competing, the way that you're going to get notice, the way that you're going to
Yeah.
get recognition, the way that you're going to make progress in becoming better is by competing and consistently beating the male teams.
Yeah,
So
of
you're going to
course. I
go and
never
put yourself
argued
into
against
a
this.
female league where the competition is not going to be as fierce. The competition is not going to be as
Yeah.
high as what you experience
Yeah.
there,
Mhm.
but
I
you
know.
still are
Are you
going to
talking
beat the
about
male teams.
competing like against, or are you also talking about playing on a team? Because if you're talking about competing against, 90% of
Well,
like
I'm
our
talking to
matches
Vilga's point
are
here. I'm talking to Vilga's point, which
okay.
is
Okay.
that
Okay.
a female team almost beat a male team, and that was Xset before they went to Valorant. I remember
Yeah.
I saw that pop up on HLTV, and I was like, "Holy shit!" And they almost took Schneider out, right? So that's what that's the case that we're talking about there, where it's a female team
Yeah.
that almost beat a male team. Now, if we want to talk about mixed teams and all the other things, that's a different conversation. But like the point that
Yeah.
we're here is that's what I mean is like if you want to compete against the men and beat the men and continue and
Yeah.
like have that, then you have to keep doing exactly what you described and exactly like Sapphire described when I
Yeah.
in that original tweet, that retweet that I did where she described like I didn't
Yeah.
care about your gender, all I did was grind. I went after the guys, I played with the best,
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff. I'm like, well, there you go. That's what
Yeah, but
everybody
that's what
does
we
if you want to
doing. That's
compete.
what me doing.
There
Juice
you go.
breeder doing. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
what
think
we're
it's
doing.
just like looking at the situation. It's again, it's not an easy solution, right? Like that's why we're all like picking our
Sure.
heads at it.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, Definitely, I agree with like. I was gonna talk about a few points too. Like, I think there is like ways to try to get results. I think within like women tournaments and stuff like that. I think just growing the scene again. If people are lazy, if people don't work hard, if people don't want it, then you can go and grab somebody who does. But when you have like 10 people to choose from, people can get
Exactly.
complacent. They can
Woo!
afford they can afford to get complacent. I mean, that goes with any scene, not just like women. Like if you have a
Yeah,
lot of people
exactly.
to choose from, and that's why you have like Simples, like Nico's, like the top 20 of HLTV. It's there's just so many dudes to choose from that you're bound to find like some gems for sure. And I would like to see a world where there's more women so that we can like actually find some more gems. And I think again there needs to be a stepping stone. I think that it's just like I think that it is like a solution, a stepping stone for now. And there should be like some thought into how do we bridge that. But I also think again, going into like women's talking just about like the women tournaments and getting women
Well,
better.
if I could comment on that real quick though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just comment on that point, right? Because
Yep.
there needs to be a stepping stone. But like you
Yep.
pointed out earlier, right, where all the incentives are for you to stay in your female team because you get your sports psychologist, you get your support from the org, you get your salary, you get your visa, you get all these things, right? If all the incentives point one direction, where's the incentive going the other way?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, not
Yeah,
just for women, but
but
for
that's what I
tier
said.
two,
That's
for
what I
tier
outlined at the
three.
beginning of this brouhaha, right? That the incentives are all wrong to get the. It's like we want this goal, but all of the incentives point the other direction. They don't
But
point
why
towards
not
that
add
goal.
more? Like, why not have both? Is kind of what I'm getting at. Is like, why do we have to have one or the other? Why can't we try to find like? Because I do think, like for example, NA, like the tier under pro gets like at the moment doesn't get a lot of love. It has in the past, like whatever. But at
Save
the moment, like
NACS.
it
Well, crypto will
yeah,
do that. We'll get there. We'll get there.
we'll get there. But like that would be really good even for those players you're talking about who like you think maybe resentful, like as you were speaking about earlier. Like I think that those players have been working hard. There are teams who do work hard and probably deserve like an org or something. And
Yeah,
I
look
think
at
there
Pony.
could
I mean, legitimately good team. How long did it take them to find an org?
yeah, like I think there should be a path not just to bridge women, but I think it's like two birds, one stone. Like why not also lift up like the path to pro? And I think that you can kind of I'm not a business person, right? I don't know like that answer, but it's just like an idea. And I think that just like kind of going into what Vilga was saying earlier, personally, I think like the women right now who are really driven and hungry, maybe it's on us to set a good example. And that's also why recently I made that like community, and I'm trying to set a good example for women. I'm trying
Right.
to show them how to get better. I plan on making like content videos, like I guess being like representation to show like this is what you have to do to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not like gonna toot my own horn, but I think it's I've realized like if nobody knows what you do, like how does anyone know you work hard?
Yeah.
No one knows if I don't tell them, right? And I need to like it is like if I want the women's scene to grow to where I want it to be, it is part of my responsibility as like someone who can take initiative and kind of try to influence the change that I want to see and create hungrier women. Like I know that Vilga works like really hard. And I probably put in a lot of time, like maybe more than like even your tier 2 players. They probably just like pug all day, but
Oh
last
yeah, like
season I've
yeah,
spent like
definitely.
an unhealthy amount of hours in demos, honestly. Like I had barely any free time last season. Because I was just like grinding really hard trying to get better. I recently picked up IGL role, and I wanted to make sure I'm doing like everything I can to do my job right. And so I barely pugged, like I pugged if I had extra time, and that was like my fun. I was like pugging. And I barely did that. I usually would like to pug a lot more. Um, and so yeah, like those are things that happen beyond behind the scene that like no one really knows, and it's like no one's fault. It's like if I don't tell them, no one knows. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that it's a responsibility that like women need to step up for other women to realize like we need to set a good example and not show like and not just be like lazy. And then again, if we have more women, then we have like people we can pull from. Like I would, like we can pull a bunch of Vilgas, a bunch of goose breeders, like little girls who are just like really hungry, really want it, and we can like train that up. Even like right now, we just picked up a girl named Kelsey. She's like first doesn't play any competitive play, but she's like got a really natural like raw talent. She's really hungry, and like we're trying to train her up, and
Mm-hmm.
that's also like something that like she gets like a pretty good chance because of like women tournaments and stuff. So it's not like it's not perfect by any means, but I think it's just a stepping stone, and I think that there's a way that we can make that stepping stone better. It doesn't have to be um, isolating these women to like lower levels. Like, why don't we try to rise up? Play dudes, like don't just play chicks. Like, I majority of my playtime is against dudes. FPLC, if I like to pug solo, that's the only time I pug solo. I never pug solo in regular pugs. It's
Mm-hmm.
the worst, but I will play
Same.
FPLC, and it is a goal for me to also make FPL. Like if I make FPL, that's a really good example for women. But also like it'd be cool to play an FPL. Like I want to play the pros, like So I think that there's a lot we can achieve. And I don't really know the perfect answer, but I'm trying to personally, as an individual, do the most I can with the current situation. Like of course I'm going to take advantage of a women's scene, women's tournament. And that's like originally what got me into competing. Is like I didn't even know like anything about Counter-Strike when I first joined. Like I knew absolutely nothing, but I first like got a taste of like tournaments through like women, like just being picked up by like a team to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that like made me really hungry. I was like, oh, this is like awesome. And that's like what got me grinding. And like I do think that I'm like one of the top like uh female players, like for sure. Like I'm just gonna say that, and I do think like Vilga is also like a part of that too. And I
Well,
I could
yeah.
list like girls for
That's
a
why I
while
jumped at
here,
the
but
chance of having you on the stream to have a chat. You got
yeah,
you are pros. You are veterans. You've been competing for a long time. You're going to have some insight on what this is all about and the back end of it,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So I think it's just trying to set the best example and also lead by example is like my goal personally. Like I if you ask any of my teammates like how bad I want Premiere, like they would tell you instantly. So I think that that's like just something we can do as like women in the scene. Yeah.
I agree completely.
I agree with this statement.
Oops,
And the camera goes
I
again.
shouldn't do that again.
Well, I feel like this is probably a good place to take a break. I mean, I feel like we can keep going because again, like we highlighted earlier, this isn't necessarily a black and white issue. It feels like there's a lot of
Yeah.
gray to it, and we
Yeah.
could really um, there is no clear answer. We could have a bunch of discussion on it, and I feel like it continues to be an interesting topic to have a discussion on, especially if there's going to be this much involved in it, with ESL really committing into it and everything on the line. So, but this is probably a good place to call it for today. And if you want, we can have this kind of discussion again in a little bit. Would love to keep tabs and keep tabs and keep information flowing. Another way to get attention onto the female CS scene. So I'm going to take this opportunity to thank you both very much for joining me. Vilga, I know it's early. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Goose, I know it's late. So thank you very much for staying up late.
My brain's starting to fade out.
It's a rough one. But thank you very much both for taking part in this conversation, and I hope to have you again on soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Sorry.
Oh, go for it.
Did we manage to at least enlighten you on some of the points?
Yes. Without a doubt, you've given me insight into...
Because I came here only with one purpose, to change opinion of one person, and that is you.
Oh, well, you haven't changed my opinion, but you have given me insight.
Insight is good. I'll take insight.
No, but that's how discussion is, It's not going to happen in just an instant, especially when there's shades of gray the way that we've determined here. Because to me... I'm very much the way that I see the world, and after having worked in esports for 10 years and really been involved in it, grassroots and up, and is very much the way that I see things is that things exist for a reason when there's a demand for them, right? It's just market. And so when you get viewers, when you have interest, you can sell sponsorship and you can grow and you can make a bigger tournament next time, and it happens naturally. And that's how I've always wanted esports to go. I've been an advocate against all this VC funding coming in and all this just free money that's blown up everything completely out of control. There's all these sorts of things that have been going off. And my background is the Good Studio, which is we rented a house, we tore up the basement, we created our own studio in the basement, and we created our own tournaments from nothing. And we just ran tournaments because we wanted to, and we found sponsors to pay for it, and then we went from there, right? So that's my background on trying to just find sustainable things, right? Trying to find ways that work, right? We have this many viewership, this many viewers. Great, we can sell sponsorship for this much money. Great, we can run a tournament for this, and then you go from there, right? Not there's money that just fell out of the sky onto our heads and we don't know where it came from and all that sort of stuff. That's not what I'm interested in at all. It's a really big reason why I'm still in love with the CS scene in particular, because here we have that freedom. It's not just the developer comes in and decides this is the way it's going to be, like with Riot and Blizzard, right? Riot, whatever they say, it's the word of God. That's it. It happens. Blizzard, same way. I worked for Blizzard for 2 years. I wanted that experience to have a point of comparison, right? Because I'd grown up in CS, so I needed to see what it was to work with a corporate entity like that and to really have them call the shots. It was a really interesting learning experience. But now I've come back to CS and I realize I really enjoy the freedom that we have here and the way that we can grow things and do things still. And so that's my perspective on the whole thing. So it's I'm not against female CS by any means. I think I'm much more against just it being co-opted by marketing firms, cynical people, or just business people who don't, who claim to care about supporting women or supporting X whatever. That's the thing, because it really is just whatever buzzword it is at the time. They claim to do this, but in reality, if they don't get a return on this investment, they're just gonna take off next year, and it's just gonna disappear, and you're all gonna get the rugs pulled right out from under you, and that's not fair to anybody. So we should be focusing instead on how do we grow something year on year that's building on what is there, and build the audience, build the interest, find the sponsors, and build something that can't be pulled out from under you, because it's real, it's there. Do you understand what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah.
No, I think it's a fair point. I'm not a business person. I know jack about that type of stuff, but I think it does it is a fair point, and I think maybe that's something we can find an answer to over time, maybe in future conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always open for discussion. Everybody wants to paint me as some misogynist, whatever, hater, and it couldn't be farther from the truth. It's
I think that's why this combo is good.
Yeah.
I think things just got lost. Even reading back, I honestly didn't even. That's why I asked you what your points were, because I honestly didn't even know at the end of the day. Things just kind of got lost.
They got lost very quickly too. I was actually pretty shocked at just how fast. I just shot off a couple sarcastic tweets, and then all of a sudden it's the ceiling's coming down.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't be sarcastic on the topic where there's a kind of pretty brutal discrimination, you know. It's
Well, I think
just
those are the
not
most
something
important
right to
to
do.
be sarcastic in. Because how do you tell the emperor has no clothes? You have to get in there a little bit. But that's what I mean. It's not against the women's tournaments. It's just against let's say the initiative, any key, etc. These sorts of initiatives I find to be very cynical, and I don't think that they do good. In fact, I think they do harm. But that's my position on that, at least. But yeah,
Yeah, I guess
Hopefully
it's
it's
hard
gonna be
to.
changed
Yeah.
in the
okay.
future. And we gonna prove you wrong.
Yeah.
Well,
Right, Guzi?
And us in the women's scene need to pump some iron, get them DMs going, get those demos going.
listen,
Oh yeah.
squats and deads, just get after it.
Yep. I want to see Jack dropping me 200. I want to see ripped women at the next LAN. No,
Want to see the
no.
4-on-3 Vilga?
Yeah. 4-3 Goose and Vilga showing up.
Just get it. No room on the stage. You just push everybody off. See, that's the way it is.
Yeah. Like, Vilga's like, get off the stage. Get
love
out
it.
of my way.
All right. Well,
Oh my god.
guys, thanks so
Sorry.
much. Really good conversation. Really enjoyed it. Let's do it again soon, huh?
All right.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Take care.
All right. Thanks.
Enjoy
Bye.
your day.